This is Commodore Sadeed Malik. I'm the Chief Executive Officer and Secretary General of Karachi Council on Foreign Relations. You all are very well introduced to Karachi Council on Foreign Relations. We have been holding on seminars and after COVID webinars. And today's topic is Pak-European Union relations. There could not be anyone better than the Ambassador of European Union, Her Excellency Androulla Kaminara, to tell us about it. And there could be no better than person, our Ambassador Mustafa Kamal Kazi, who has been ambassador to a number of European countries that included Russia, Netherlands, and also to Iraq and Indonesia. May I now request Ambassador Mustafa Kamal Kazi to moderate today's webinar.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are indeed honored to have with us Ambassador Androulla Kaminara, Ambassador of the European Union. She took up her assignment in Pakistan in September 2019. She has remarkable career profile. We are very pleased to welcome you, Ambassador Kaminara, to the Karachi Council for Foreign Relations. Next time, we hope to have you with us in person in Karachi sometimes in future. We'll start with your briefing on EU-Pakistan relations. We would therefore be interested to know how EU is looking at its global role, particularly in the context of situation in our region and beyond. With these remarks, I pass on the floor to you, Ambassador. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Kamal. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be addressing you today. I do look forward to a potential future meeting face-to-face. It's important to also have, the face-to-face meetings and not just the Zooms, which have become part of our lives recently. But nonetheless, we're doing the best we can in the current context. I have prepared some slides depending on the basis of what you have said you are more interested in. I would go slower or faster in the presentation. My presentation basically has two parts. One is more focused on part one is what is the European Union, what are our aims, what are our objectives, and then look into what is the European Union doing in Pakistan, because I think you have to have the general before you go into the specific. So this is the structure we will have today, but just keep in mind there will be two parts. One, the general of the EU, and one which would, the second part would focus on Pakistan alone. So the European Union, it's a unique economic and political union, 27 member states. Of course, we lost the UK after Brexit. The very first steps of the European Union started after the Second World War. I think it's important to keep in mind a logic of creating a union between former enemies in Europe and former enemies that fought two world wars and where so many lives were lost is absolutely fundamental to what the European Union is doing, both internally and also what the European Union is trying to project throughout the world, which is cooperation rather than, let's say, aggression. Cooperation can only give benefits to both sides. So what are the goals of the European Union? And as I've just hinted at, is first and foremost is to promote peace, both within and outside the European Union in the world, is to establish economic and monetary system to promote inclusion and combat discrimination, break down barriers to trade and borders. That's why we have the common market. Our values: human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, rule of law, and human rights. I would say the core institutions are the European Council, representing the member states' governments, the European Parliament, which represents the citizens of the EU, European Commission, which is, let's say, in a simple way, the machinery behind all the new legislation of the EU, the Council of the European Union, which meets in the format of specific ministers from all the member states. For example, there is an agricultural council, there is a council of foreign ministers. And to that, we have the Court of Justice, the European Central Bank, the European Court of Auditors, and a series of other bodies. Now, which is the leadership? We have Charles Michel, who is the President of the European Council. For the first time, we currently have a woman, Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission. For the first time also, we have not the first woman President of the European Parliament. And we have also HRVP, High Representative and Vice President of the European Commission, Joseph Borrell. The competences. This is also very important to understand, although it's quite a complex system. There are certain areas where it is an exclusive competence of the European Union. So, for example, trade and common commercial policies and exclusive competence of the EU. That is why all member states so that is why member states do not have bilateral trade agreements, but all member state trade agreements are under the EU umbrella. Each financial cycle, we have concrete priorities. We work on 7-year budgets. So we're currently on the budget 7-year cycle of 2019-2024. And you see here what are the priorities: the Green Deal, that the economy works for everybody, that the Europe is fit for the digital age. That means that we empower people in Europe for a new generation of technologies, promoting the European way of life, which I underline here, the European way of life. The language that we're using vis-a-vis the strategic compass is pretty bold. Basically, we have realized that in order to be to have a strategic relevance, we have to take some actions in order to have capabilities, EU capabilities, in addressing some of the international challenges. There was a risk that we would, if we didn't take these actions, that we would always be principled, but in the long run, we would probably seldom be relevant, because coordination with others across the world for actions to take place would normally mean that we react slower than we should. We have a common foreign and security policy. It is based on the UN charters. We believe in non-proliferation and disarmament. And we have, and I think this is not widely known, that we have 10 EU common security and defense policy civilian missions, both in Europe, in Africa, and the Middle East, and over 2,000 personnel that have been involved in these missions over the last years. This is a quick map of all these CSDP missions. One that is of particular relevance to Pakistan is the Atalanta mission. You would see it off the coast of the east coast of Africa. Basically, it's a mission that was started in order to ensure that WFP, which is the World Food Programme, could deliver aid to Somalia, and those ships could be protected from piracy. There has recently been discussions with Pakistan. Now, this is a quote from my boss in a way. He is the boss of every ambassador in the world, Joseph Borrell, who says that our missions and operations are invaluable pillar of European security and defense. Their work on the ground and across continents is the tangible example of the EU action for global security. Just to say that apart from all the other things that we're doing, we're also very much involved in providing development cooperation funds to Pakistan. We have been providing about 100 million euros of grants. I underline it's grants and not loans. What we do here does not come with, it's not in the form of a loan. It's European taxpayers' money that goes into providing and addressing needs in third countries and trying to support the faster development of third countries, including Pakistan. I have more detailed slides on all of these things, but I think it's better if I leave it here and then allow for questions. So overall, what the EU is and what are the key things we have been doing in Pakistan.
On the context of EU's global role, I have a question. There seems to be some contradiction in EU's global role. On one hand, we see emphasis within the EU on an assertive foreign policy, common security and defense policy. And on the other hand, there is an urge to quickly fall in line with the US-led positions on regional and global issues or crisis, even though those positions may not be always in the interest of some key EU countries, member states. Just mention the gas imports from Russia, China, US contest, and also the approach to the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan. So would you be kind enough to elaborate and to address this kind of impression and perception that prevails?
Thank you. Very, very pertinent and also timely, I would say, question. The reason I paused and I think I went into a bit of detail when I was talking about the strategic compass for the EU is exactly that in the current geostrategic situation, it is quite obvious that the EU needs to strive for more independent action and to have the capabilities to take more independent action. It is, if you look at the address of the Commission President to the European Parliament, once a year there is a State of the Union address, which the Commission President makes to the European Parliament, and it takes place in September. If you look at what Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said in that context, it was in September, and the events in Afghanistan took place in August. And she does not shy away from the fact that we needed to have been able to act more independent in the situation in Afghanistan. And a lot of the, let's say, the rapid push that has taken place to promote this strategic compass for the EU is exactly the realization that we, of course, cooperate with NATO, with the US, or other global bodies or global partners. But in order for us to be have a more strategic position, we also need to have our own capability.
Cultural interaction ultimately leads to increase of trader transactions, there's a suggestion which has come up in the chat that would it be possible to make some sister countries between European capitals and Pakistani cities like Lahore and Karachi?
Of course, this is possible. This has come up and as a suggestion in the past. We can always do that. The question is to ensure the action we take will actually lead to more tourism. And I think the key to having more tourism is more integrated touristic product. So, and secondly, to be able to access the country more freely. I'll give you an example of what I mean by integrated touristic product. I've been to some areas which are stunning beauty. I mean, really, the world should see a lot more of these places in Pakistan. But you travel there, and let's say you go to the north. You travel there. You go if you're interested in mountain climbing. You can do that, but normally when tourists travel, they don't just travel to do one activity. They will need to do some cultural activities. They will need some, let's say, restaurants, and the transport system has to be better. A lot of tourists are also very interested now in having ecological tourism that does not put a further burden on the environment, but that they would come and see places that are pristine and that their presence there would not cause any problem.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Abu Bakr Shamsi from the Karachi Chamber of Commerce. I just had a very quick question that since we represent the largest chamber of Pakistan, which is basically the 7th largest chamber in the world, a major question that most of our businessmen have is the duration of the visa that is issued to them. It is really not conducive to a good working business environment that after every 3 months or 4 months, they have to reapply for visas. So my suggestion would be that EU come up with a better visa scheme, something like the US has come up. Almost all of our members get a 5-year multiple entry visa every time they apply from the US. And that seems a much better idea and a much more conducive to the working environment of businesses.
I hear the request loud and clear. One of the slides that I had skipped was the EU-Pakistan readmission agreement. What we do on visas is the result of a bilateral agreement. We have annual discussions between Pakistan and the EU about these readmission agreement, and tied to that is also the travel between Pakistanis and to Europe and vice versa. This is something that has been raised on a number of other occasions. I have to say that the visa issues are a competence of each member state.
Her Excellency, I know you visited Karachi Chamber last year where we interacted with you. For us, exports to European Union is really very important. But side by side, I know for sure that Pakistan was one of the biggest buyers of textile machinery during the last 2 years from European Union. Probably the top 3 buyers of European machinery. So not that Pakistan through their export is helping, but we have bought a lot of machinery from European Union also.
Absolutely.
So you and the European Union member states should also appreciate Pakistan's effort for balance of trade.
Of course, the GSP Plus it's not a one-way trade regime, it's a two-way trade regime. So Pakistan has managed to increase its exports to the EU, 65% since it was signed. The EU increased also its exports to Pakistan, but I think it's 48% if I remember correctly. So absolutely, the GSP Plus is a two-way regime, trade regime. So basically, sometimes Pakistani textiles find a bigger market in the EU than EU produced. textiles. And that is something that has to be borne in mind when somebody is discussing about what's the next generation, or why should they continue or not continue the GSP Plus regime.
May we now request our chairman, Ikram Sehgal, for his concluding remarks.
Excellency, thank you very much for being with us today. It is really, it's been a really privilege to listen to you and to hear a comprehensive presentation on the EU-Pakistan diplomatic and economic relationship. I have a few points since, first European landed here in 1498, Vasco da Gama. And after that, all the trade has been sea trade, not really trade by land, which has been there, but not in a very sophisticated manner. One part of the presentation which I feel that needs looking at is the two corridors that link up, other than the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Because as you know, the World Economic Forum has included Pakistan in the Eurasia sector, other than the MENA sector, the Middle East, North Africa sector. And that is because of the presence of Gwadar on the Indian Ocean. And therefore, other than the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, there are two other important corridors. One is the North-South corridor from Russia and the Central Asian states into Gwadar. And the other one is a corridor which is the old RCT highway, which really connected the Regional Cooperative Development Highway, which connected Pakistan through Iran and Turkey to Europe. And these corridors are very much in existence. They are actually capable of working today. It shortens the distance for trade, it shortens the distance, shortens the economic relationship in the sense of freight charges become much less. And moreover, it is door to door. So if you put a container in Karachi, you can take off the container in Brussels or Rotterdam, or you can take off the container in Barcelona, for that matter. So I think that is something that I think would be nice to have discussed more, because I think there is a European interest now in using this fundamental access to the Indian Ocean, which comes through, and which now, with more peace coming to the region in this area, it is a more feasible proposition. The other thing, Excellency, which I must point out to you, is I know for certain that the European Union is very interested in financial inclusion, like the World Bank, financial inclusion in the Sustainable Development Goals, and particularly women's empowerment. As you know, women do not have access to bank accounts, etc., etc., and a lot of work is going on in Pakistan in this respect. I'm sure there is a lot of, must have studied it, and there is a part of it. So I think that is something that needs to be discussed further, because certainly the European Union, because of your contention to human rights, and this is financial inclusion of women is part of human rights. So I think whatever help that you can give in that respect would be fine. I would take this opportunity to request a further dialogue with you, of course, pending your visit to Karachi. We keep visiting Islamabad, and so we would like to come and discuss it. Excellency, again, I thank you very much. It's very kind of you. Actually, the Secretary General has dragged me in from Dubai. I'm in Dubai, supposed to come back tonight, but he said, no, you must attend it. And I am very honored and privileged to have attended this session. Thank you very much, Excellency.